Hi, this is a short video just to show how to log into Spire and move around the program in a general sense. When you first launch Spire, the program pops up on the screen as you're seeing now, and you have to key in your username and password. The server, you only have to change that if you were running multiple servers, which is probably not usually most environments. So I'm going to key in my password now. And click OK. Once you do that, you'll be presented with a list of companies. So whatever company you want to log into, you can choose the system date. It'll default you can choose a date. It'll default to the system date, and you can have different locations, which we'll get into later. And then I want to log in to Inspire Health System, so I'm going to click Login. And once you do that, you're into the system, and this is the general layout of the Spire system. So what you see on the left is all the modules down here: calendar, communications, job costing, payroll, sales, etc. So whatever module you want to go into in the software, you just click on that module. The modules are also, you can select what order you want to see them. So if you happen to be taking orders all day long, and you want the sales module, which is currently the 5th one down in the list, to be at the top, you can just click on it, hold the mouse button down, and drag it to the top. So you can reorder these modules in any order that you want that makes sense to you, and you're going to see all the different modules that you have access to in Spire. So for example, if you don't have access to the general ledger, you won't see that. So you only see modules of which you have access to. Across the top, you can see different menus, and if you click on a menu option, it'll give you choices that you can that you can choose, when clicking on the menu options, which we'll get into later as well. So you'll see you have all different columns across the top. So I'm going to click on Sales. So Sales is showing all the open orders on the system. If you look across the top, you have different columns. So there's order number, invoice number, customer name, status type, etc. Any of these columns you can sort by very easily by just clicking on the column heading. So if I click on order number, it's going to sort it by ascending order number. If I click it again, it'll do it by descending order number. If I want to sort on customer number, I click on customer number, it'll do it ascending and descending. It's basically a toggle switch. If you wanted to have a look at an order, any particular order, you just highlight that order and then double click on it, or just double click, and it'll open up the order. It'll give you the information on the order. We'll get into details of orders in a later session, but I just wanted to show how to move around the system. You can also search. So if you're looking for a particular order number, let's say you're looking for order number S005, right at the bottom of the screen, 78596. So in the search bar at the top, you can start typing, or as long as you've got the focus on the order number, you can actually just start typing there whatever you want to type. So let's say here we want to look for S, and you'll see on the top over here, it changes color as we type. 000, let's say 578599, and there it's found that particular order for us, and we can click on it. Now we've opened up the order. Now this is exactly the same in all the modules. So we're in the sales module now, where we're seeing all the open orders. Let's say we were in a different module. We went to let's say we go to customers. So it's exactly the same. Any of these headings across the top you can click on, and it'll sort by. Now it's going to sort by customer number, ascending, descending, ascending. You want to sort by customer name, click by customer name, ascending, descending. If you want to find a customer, so let's say you want to find Action Coffee, which is towards the bottom of the screen, you could just start typing Action, and it'll come up. You see it as you type. It gives you the focus of the actual customer that you're looking at. Again, if you wanted to look at the customer, you wanted to see the customer details, just like we looked at the sales order, double click on the customer details, And that'll bring up the customer details on the screen. You can see, you know, all the different details: name, address, statistics, sales, etc., etc. And that's the same in all the different modules. Okay, so we're now going to go to sales history. Just click on sales history. Sales history is basically sales that have already been invoiced. So if you want to look at what your history of your sales were, this is the module you'd go to. So just continuing on the general theme of moving around the system, I showed you earlier that you could sort by all these columns across the top, so like customer number, customer name, user type. You can also expand the width of the column by dragging the split hair cursor to the left or the right. And you can also, if on these columns, if you right click, if you click with the right mouse button, you can also choose what columns you want to see. So let's see, for example, you didn't want to see the reference number, the FOB, the transaction number, any of the columns that you don't want to see, you just take out of the list. They come out automatically. If you didn't want to see, for example, the user type, so if you see the user type over here, so if we uncheck that, user type will disappear. Once we've decided what columns we want, we can also order the columns. So for example, if you want the invoice date, let's say to be after the invoice number, just left click on the invoice date and drag it and move it to the other side of the invoice number. Now with all the information we see on the screen, we can create various reports, and we can also filter information. So if we want to see just a subset of information, we can create filters. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on this filter icon on the top left, and it'll open up the filters dialog. And on there we can actually we can create filters on one field or many fields. So I'm going to or columns. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little down arrow over here. It'll bring up all the columns, ones that we see, that we don't see. These are all the fields that you can actually filter by. So for example, we're going to choose invoice date, and we're going to go to this is, just to the right of invoice date, click on the arrow and choose is between, and we want to see all the sales for 2016. So what I'm going to choose the date here, choose the year of 2016, go to month, choose January, January the 1st, and the end date, that's the second date. Click on the little hourglass, choose the year by this little spinner switch, 2016, go down to December, and click on 31. So now all the sales that you see on the screen are only sales for that were invoiced during the year of 2016. So if I go to the invoice date column now, I click on it, it'll actually sort by date, and you'll see the first sale was on the 18th of January 2016. If I click on it again, it'll tell you the date of the last sale, which was December 14, 2016. What you can add to this filter as well. So what you could do is, if you wanted to say, okay, I want to add another field to the filter, so I click on the plus sign, it'll bring the little drop-down box here, and I can choose another field. So, for example, I want to see only sales from, say, a particular salesperson. So let's say a salesperson is, let's say, between, and we can choose what salesperson we want. So we're going to say we want to just see sales for Barry and David. So I'm going to choose Barry to David. And these are all the sales for, for Barry and David. Now, once you've got a filter, so now all reports that we create or print or anything like that will only access information that you see on the screen. So let's say, for example, we want to print a sales report of the information that we're seeing on the screen, we click on the printer icon, we've got two choices. Let's say we click on one particular invoice, this invoice here, 600371. We click on the print icon here. To the right of it, you can choose to print what was selected. So that is the invoice selected, or print all. Print all will print everything on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually choose two invoices. I just held the mouse button down and dragged it. So these two invoices, if I choose to print selected, it's going to print just those two invoices, or the information from those two invoices. And here we get a list of the reports that we can actually print. So you can print the customer sales history, for example, and I'm going to print an invoice. So it's going to print two invoices because I've highlighted two, and it's going to print the customer sales history just based on those two invoices, just as an example. So I'm going to preview that. When you're printing reports, you can print them to a printer. You can email the reports if email is set up. You can print and email, or you can preview. Preview would be on the screen. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to preview the reports, and it's going to do two reports, customer sales history and the invoices. Drag it onto the screen, and here we've got our customer sales history. It gives us information based on those two invoices. If I click on invoice, it generates two invoices. So let's make this a bit bigger. So here's the first invoice, and here's the second invoice. And you can see here it's got like page 1 and page 2 because there's two invoices. So we're on page 1 of 2. We scroll down, we're on page 2 of 2. And that's how you can actually create filters and reports. Another thing you can do with filters is if you want to save this filter for future access, you don't have to recreate, so that you don't have to recreate the filter, you can do that as well. There's a little arrow on the right of filters that you can click on, and you can go save preset as. It'll save this filter, and we'll give it a name. So we'll say this filter we're going to call sales by date and salesperson. So let's say sales, date, and salesperson. You can also choose if you want everybody in the company to see this filter, or just the user, you, who's creating the filter. So I'm going to just leave it as me, as the user. And you can also say, do you want to see it in the module list? I'm going to check that off. And you'll see once I've clicked this off, show in module list, on the left hand side under sales history here, you'll actually see that filter. So I'm going to also turn save column state on. So what it'll do is it'll save the state of the columns, all these columns that we've got across the top. Remember, we got rid of a couple of columns, and you can reorder them. So if I save the column state, then that preset filter will keep that information. So I click OK. And now you can see under sales history, I've got sales date and salesperson. That's a filter I created, and it's there like forever, basically. If I click on sales history again, it brings up all the sales, in like everything in the database. If I click on sales date and salesperson, it'll just give me the filtered information. So let's say now I want to change the salesperson. Instead of having it for Barry and David, I want it to just say salesperson is. I click on is, and I click on the little magnifying glass to choose which one I want. I'm going to take Barry out of the find box, bring up all the salespeople, and let's just say I want to just see sales for John. I double click on John, and now I'm seeing just the sales for John, and all the reports and all the other information I want to do with this information is just going to be for salesperson John, for sales between these two dates. I can save it as another preset if I want, or I can just leave this one preset and come back to it and change the dates and the salespeople anytime I want. So I'm going to just leave that as it is now. And I just wanted to show you one other thing with this information, whatever information you're seeing on the screen, and again this works throughout all the modules of Spire. I can print reports as I've shown you before. But I can also export information. So I can export information, the information that you see on the screen and all the columns. And if I drag the slider bar to the right, you'll see there's many more columns of information. And again, we could have decided to take those columns away by right-clicking on the columns and just unchecking them. And there's lots and lots of columns we could get rid of. But let's say we wanted to export this. Like if you wanted to export the sales data to an Excel spreadsheet, just click Export. You choose a file name, sales invoices, etc. And we'll save this to, let's say, a temporary folder. Temp, and click Save. And there we go, it saved it. And if we open the file, we'll see the exported Excel file. It's just creating the file for us. And here's the file. And from here we can, work just whatever information we want in the Excel spreadsheet. We can keep, we can delete columns. Let's say we wanted to just see the total dollars and we didn't care about any of the other columns. We could basically say get rid of all these columns. And maybe widen the columns and make sure that we can see it. This is just working in Excel. And yeah, you've got information of all the sales for for the year for this particular salesperson. And you can also total it, obviously, just like you can, and format the cells, etc. in Excel. Anyway, that's just a quick introduction of the actual power you can see within Spire version 3.5 and what you can do with it. Thanks for watching.